Fresh greenery begins to sprout everywhere, and within a few short weeks, the forest is in full sap. With the cold season barely over, the storks begin to return from their winter quarters in Spain and Africa. 30 years ago, they had almost entirely disappeared. Today, there are 400 resident breeding pairs in the Vosges region. In spring, storks will usually return to the nests they left the previous year, as here near Münster in France. They busily go about rebuilding their nests, though they may not always agree on the exact design. A stork nest is around 1 meter in diameter and can weigh well over 500 kilograms, and you need masses of fresh twigs to build it. Nest building is exhausting work, so good nutrition is vital. To provide enough food, storks need a damp meadow landscape habitat with shallow ponds and lush grassland where they can search for small creatures. The Münster Valley has plenty of stork meadows, a good reason for the feathered emblem of the Alsace and the Vosges to return here. Above the valleys, gnarled old beech trees fringe the alpine meadows. Their twisted trunks bear witness to the harsh mountain climate and the relentless wind. Solitary sentinels, they brave nature's rougher side, permitting the occasional glimpse of the far-distant Rhine Valley. Wood anemones bloom in the sunny meadows. And in the shelter of bushes and herbs, snails and beetles also survive the winter at over 1,000 meters above sea level. Down in the valley, it's high season for stork breeding. By late May, almost all the stork pairs in the Münster Valley have had offspring. Even the very small chicks are insatiable. Their parents have to gather 1 kilo of food per young stork every day. They barely have time for a brief clattered greeting before one of them is off again on the hunt for food. The Vosges region is not only renowned for its storks, its extensive forests are famous too. In the northern Vosges, deciduous forests that are rich in species often reach up to the higher slopes. Here and there, deeply fissured sandstone outcrops tower above the treetops. Water, wind, and frost wear away at the stone, creating curious shapes, like this honeycomb weathering pattern. The red coloring comes from the iron content of the sandstone. Lizards enjoy basking in the sunshine on rocky ledges. And it's an excellent vantage point for the kestrel to prepare his next hunting foray. The forest's closed canopy offers many animals protection and sustenance. In its shade, a hedgehog hunts for insects and snails. Late May, and hinds give birth to their offspring. The fawn's hides are initially white-spotted. This gives them excellent camouflage in the dappled light of the forest floor. In the North Vosges Nature Reserve, many areas are under protection. The forest dung beetle can forage away here in peace and quiet. Fungi, dung and rotting vegetation are its favourite delicacies. The hedgehog, on the other hand, is a predator. It's mainly carnivorous. It diligently rummages around on the forest floor, often taking dung beetles by surprise. The kestrel is also on the hunt. Hovering in one place in the air, it searches for its prey. Chamois aren't on his list, they're too big. The rugged mountainsides in the south are an ideal habitat for mountain goats. It was only in 1956 that they were released into the wild in the upper Vosges. Today, there are several hundred of them. In the mountains, the weather can change very quickly. Looming clouds herald a storm. The storks return to their nests. Their eyries are at the mercy of wind and weather. The adult birds must protect their young from the rain and cold, or their delicate down would quickly become saturated. Not even the adult stork's plumage is entirely waterproof. If the rain persists, their feathers become soggy and heavy. This makes it almost impossible for them to fly off in search of food. Some use the opportunity to beautify their nests, or perhaps to sire some offspring. When the summer is hot and dry, stormy showers are a blessing for the forest. At last, the plants get a proper soaking. But do the caterpillars taste any juicier? In the dripping wet forest, a lynx seeks a dry spot. To the melodic territorial call of a blackbird. Tirelessly, the spotted woodpecker hammers away at a branch. Envious rivals are given short shrift. Lynx were released back into the wild here as recently as 1983, a controversial act in this area. Not everyone was happy to see this predator's return. Young chamois deer forage unsuspectingly. But this time, danger lurks close by. The lynx is rarely seen during the daytime. It patrols its territory, spanning several hundred square kilometers, mainly after dark. A closer look at the southern Vosges Mountains reveals a wide variety of wildflowers, herbs and grasses. The willow herb grows on rocky hillsides and is a great favorite of the chamois. The mountain pansy, on the other hand, only flourishes in damp mountain meadows. After the rains, beetles venture forth from their shelters. For snails, the damp leaves and fruit are a gastropod paradise. The last raindrops soon disappear. The damp evaporates, rising in thick clouds from the forests. For the storks, the first thing is to get their wings dry. The young imitate their elders energetically. They're growing fast and need plenty of food. This means the adults are constantly on the go, trying to keep up with the demand. They catch mice, frogs, snakes, worms and insects on the meadow, around 800 grams for themselves, plus 1 kilo for each chick every day. They pay no attention to the grey heron nearby. Streams are the lifeline of the valleys. Until the 16th century, these unspoiled meadows in the valley of the river Sauer were home to the legendary aurochs. The water attracts creatures of all sizes, big and small. It's the mating season. The mating dance of these dragonflies looks like a rather complicated business. Other insects have evidently found much simpler methods. Annoying rivals don't make the business of reproduction any easier either. Countless species of insects ensure that their future generations will continue to populate the fields. Many of the lakes in the Vosges are surrounded by moors. Paddling away on the water's surface is a mallard duck. It's Europe's most common dabbling duck and can survive almost anywhere. It builds its nest among the reeds along the shore. Cotton grass is a typical peat bog plant. Its grassy blades provide good protection for frogs. Almost motionless, this frog waits for its prey. Its diet consists of insects, including the ordinary dragonfly. The inconspicuous sundew is one of the few carnivorous plants. Exuding sticky droplets, the sundew traps insects, digests them, and extracts their nutrients. This is how the plant manages to survive in the sparse moor soil. Nutrient poor, the moors are home to a wide variety of highly specialized animals and plants. But it's a finely balanced habitat. The moors in the Vosges are strictly protected. It takes a few months before a young stag can use its antlers as weapons. In June, their antlers are still growing and are covered by a nutrient-rich velvet sheath. Deer spend around 8 hours a day browsing. They eat almost any vegetation they can find in the forest. The immature antlers are still mostly a nuisance, though they are perfect for scratching those hard-to-reach spots. Between meals, the deer rest and ruminate. This helps them digest even the most fibrous food. More than 1,000 deer roam the extensive forests in the northern Vosges. In the hollow of an old tree, hornets have built their hive. The entrance to the hornet's stronghold is under strict guard. Anyone flying in or out is checked out thoroughly. The hornet offspring in the nest are fed with captured insects. The swarm lasts for just one summer. Only the queen spends the winter here so she can start a new hive next year. Back in the Münster Valley, towards the end of July, the young storks are almost fully fledged. Only their dark beaks distinguish them from their elders now. At 1 meter tall and weighing 3 to 4 kilograms, the fledglings are as big and heavy as a fully grown stork. Those who can already fly now follow their elders out into the meadows. The young storks have to learn to forage on their own. Often they will follow an older stork in the group, gathering practical experience along the way. They don't have much time, as the storks are getting ready to head south quite soon. The wren is the smallest of the local bird population. It lives off the abundant insect life in the forest. Spiders are among its favorite foods. The beech nuts are starting to ripen. In the forest, summer is at its zenith. The beech is the most important tree in the Vosges. Under favorable conditions, they can reach heights of up to 40 meters. Beeches don't bear fruit every year. Their so-called fruiting years come along only every few years when their beech nuts grow in profusion. The hilltops of the southern Vosges are mostly bare. They're known as ballons, and only the occasional wind-hardened beech is to be found here. A wide variety of grasses and herbs covers the high mountain range along the Route de Crête and the Ballons. Their flowers are popular pit stops for small creatures. Flies, beetles, butterflies and grasshoppers enjoy the refreshment of the sweet nectar and pollen. Thistles might be unpleasant for humans, but for insects and birds they are a veritable banqueting table. Summer is time for sweet, ripe fruit, including blueberries. Mice and grasshoppers enjoy them just as much as the chamois do. They gorge till they're big and fat in preparation for winter in the mountains. In August, all the young storks are now full grown. Young and old are all well nourished and now gather in the meadow to prepare for the big departure. At the end of summer, some 2/3 of the Münster Valley storks take off and head south. Covering around 200 kilometers a day, it takes them around 2 weeks to reach their winter quarters in Spain or North Africa. In the highlands of the Vosges, summer ends early. It's September. Grass and herbs begin to wither. The sun sets earlier every day. Clear, cold nights herald the arrival of autumn. Night frosts often persist until well into the morning. The weather conditions create moods that reveal the mountains in all their glory, while the valleys below are shrouded in mist. The chamois retreat into the lower, more protected mountain regions. On some days, the autumn air is crystal clear. From the Grand Ballon, even the faraway Alps can be seen. In the northern Vosges, primeval noises echo throughout the autumnal forests. In full rut, belling or roaring loudly, stags challenge their opponents. Only the strongest stag will become the lead bull and enjoy mating precedence. Autumn transforms the deciduous Vosges forests into a sea of brilliant colour. Even though the colourful display is scientifically explained as being due to the trees losing their chlorophyll, these rich golden yellow hues still seem like magic to the eye. The trees will soon be bare. The forests of the Vosges will have to wait until the storks return before they can burst into life again.